All right, next we turn our focus to one of the most exciting and fast evolving areas in Treasury, artificial intelligence. AI is no longer just a buzzword. From cash forecasting and reconciliation to real-time decision making, AI is actively reshaping how Treasury operates. But what does it look like in practice? And how do you separate meaningful innovation from overhyped noise? In the next session, The Future of Treasury AI in Action, we're joined by two leaders who are putting AI to work inside their organizations. Matthew Harlan, Chief Technology Officer at Nihilus, and Vikrant Shah, VP of Finance and Accounting at Flare. They'll share how they're leveraging AI to solve real Treasury challenges, improve accuracy, and drive smarter decision making, along with lessons learned along the way. Let's dive in. Matthew, Vikrant, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having us here. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen, and then we can dive into the topic here. Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Wonderful. Awesome. So I'm joined here with Vikrant Shah. We're going to be talking about the future of Treasury AI in action. I'm excited to kick things off today by shaping why AI isn't just a buzzword, as Paul mentioned, in finance anymore. It's becoming a strategic lever, and Nihilus is helping teams harness it where it matters most today, especially in Treasury. So here's our agenda. We're going to do a brief intro into the solution, who we are, what we do. Many of you have heard of us. Some of you are still learning about this new iteration and this new evolution of Treasury technology. And so I'm going to give you a quick high-level synopsis. We're going to get to meet Vikrant Shah and hear about Flare, an awesome company that has taken early adoption into this technology. We're going to hear some of the challenges that they experienced. What were some of the turning points that caused them to adopt the technology? And then what were some of the resulting impacts and lessons learned? I think there's a lot we can learn from our fellow practitioners that are early adopting. And so hopefully we can avoid some pitfalls and gain some momentum from their implementations. So to kick things off, I'm Matt Harlan. I'm the Chief Treasury Officer of Nihilus. What that means is I'm just a former practitioner. I used to lead Treasury at Toast Inc. and Samsara and a couple other verticals around the nation. And so I feel your pain. I've been in this space for some time. I've implemented a lot of solutions. I've shared a lot of tears. And so wanted to be part of this new evolution of using AI, but also changing and reimagining what TMS could be, taking the worst parts of legacy systems, figuring out how to do it faster, quicker, more efficiently, and really giving our practitioner community something that is of substance that they can use, that's quick to implement and quick to deploy. I'm joined by Vikrant Shah. He's the VP of Finance and Accounting. Vikrant, I'd love for you to give an intro to yourself, and we'll get things kicked off.
Sure. Thank you, Matt, and nice to meet everyone. As Matt mentioned, I'm Vik Shah. I'm VP of Finance and Accounting here at Flare. What Flare does, Flare is a legal AI company. We are using technology and AI to make legal services faster, clearer, and more accessible. It is one of the industries that has not been impacted by technology yet, and we are trying to transform that legal industry. My role at Flare, besides all things finance and accounting, is also managing the treasury function. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we are using Nihilus in our treasury function. We have a very unique needs in our cash management needs, and that's where we have seen a lot of benefits by using Nihilus. Thank you.
Awesome, Vic. Really excited to do this with you. I think it's great to have an up and coming company that's fast growing like Flare, where you guys are forward thinking and really looking around the corners to find ways to find efficiencies. So we'll get into that in a second. So we're going to talk about what Nihilus is. Let's talk about cash management. So Nihilus is an AI native treasury platform that connects your banks, your ERPs, but also adjacent systems, and then layers on agentic intelligence on top to automate forecasting, reconciliation, payment tracking, and deep cash analysis. We replace manual spreadsheets and legacy TMS with something smarter, a suite of AI agents that do work for you so your team can move faster, see clearer, and make better decisions. Nihilus is already trusted by companies in many different verticals: energy, SaaS, e-com, healthcare, who want to modernize their finance stack without a 12-month implementation cycle. So let's talk about some of what Treasury teams are dealing with today. The iteration cycles that it takes to put reporting together, it takes to read out on reporting, it takes to kind of build the engine, but also communicate about what's taking place, takes a lot of time. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of disconnected systems, and there's a lot of time spent on manual work. And here's the truth. Teams are overwhelmed and disconnected. They're buried in spreadsheets and reacting just to cash shortfalls after the fact. But AI is changing that, which is great. There also is a cost to doing things the same. And for some of you, up until this point, this is where you lie. This is the last frontier until automation is actually achieved. But there's excess cash that could be put to work. But because of bad forecasting or inefficient forecasting, not a result of anything except data connectivity and timing, there's a lot that's left on the table. There's also productivity lost. Many of us can raise our hands on hours spent on getting a spreadsheet to work or getting automation to work the right way. And so what could we do if we reimagine a world where that time could be used and allocated differently? And then there's also borrowing inefficiency. So the main goal here is not the cost of not implementing a system is not just the replacement of manual work. It's also lost efficiency. The ability to invest excess cash, the ability to reduce borrowings, and to save time with productivity. So let's talk about why AI matters now. And here's the truth. Most Treasury teams today are interested in AI. But finance doesn't just need data, it also needs autonomy. The ability to spot risk early, the ability to forecast accurately, and optimize liquidity in real time. And so that's where agentic AI comes in. And at Nihilus, we're building not only just a platform that can help replace workflows, but a platform that can also help autonomously manage those workflows for you. So in the form of forecasting agents that can help you understand where you might need to be more efficient in forecasting, giving you suggestions, but also running scenarios around your cash to help you understand what the impact of those suggestions are. Liquidity optimization agents. What could happen if we then invested that excess cash? What could happen if we strengthened working capital? What might be the result of those things? Categorization and reconciliation agents. So a lot of us know that manual tagging and categorization is the Achilles heel of the TMS technology. Now we have systems that can do this autonomously without your input and can help you move quickly through manual workflows. And really having a system that ties it all together to where it makes sense. So instead of just reporting on what happened, Nihilus acts on what's coming next. And you're not just building a dashboard, but you're actually gaining an intelligent co-pilot that works alongside your everyday. Let's talk about the evolution of Treasury. Legacy tools like Kyriba or spreadsheets were never designed for the pace of complexity for a modern finance team. To be honest, they're slow. In many cases, they're expensive. And in most cases, they're also siloed. And they still have your team chasing data, finding out where we can get bank balances if they're not all connected into the system. And so it really does defeat the purpose of having automation. Nihilus redefines what a TMS should be. We're fast to implement. We integrate natively with banks and ERPs. And our agents learn from your workflows, which means they get smarter over time and the more that you use them. So think of it as going from a static system to a self-driving treasury function, one that can flag anomalies, that can reduce idle cash, that helps to optimize working capital, and really makes your next move obvious versus manual. And so we're going to transition today to talk with Vic to talk a little bit about Flair's journey. Flair obviously has gone through this process of ideating and reimagining what their treasury team can look like with automation. And so let's take a deep dive. We're going to discuss their practices, what was it like adopting the technology, and also some of the results after they implemented What did it yield them? And so, Vic, I'd love to maybe hear from you. Let's talk about how Flare has rebuilt Treasury with AI.
Sure. I think just to give everyone a little bit of background of how the legal industry works. I think when you are operating the legal industry, for every state that you operate in, you need a bank account. So today, Flare is operating in multiple states, and we have bank accounts. We have bank accounts in every state that we operate in. And then on top of that, we also have the regular, the business operations bank account in all the countries that we operate in. So, we are dealing with 25 plus bank accounts. We are supporting thousands of customers. So we see a lot of cash movement from like one bank account to another bank account, and in small dollar amounts, because our customers are paying as the services are getting delivered, right? So that created a unique challenge for us. We had to create all the bank reconciliations for all the large number of bank accounts we have. We have to be able to forecast those cash management needs, right? We want to make sure there's no idle cash sitting in any of those bank accounts. So we have to be very precise, or like as close to precise, of making sure that the money movement has been tracked correctly. And then we have to also report on a cash, right? As a private company, cash is one of the most important metrics that everyone is interested in, from all the way from the investors to the management. So we wanted to provide a lot of visibility into the cash. I think our biggest challenge was, because there were so many bank accounts, the bank reconciliation took numerous hours. There was a person dedicated just trying to tag the transactions, trying to reconcile all the bank accounts, trying to do a three-way reconciliation between like the CRM, the payment processor, and the billing system, and making sure that everything gets cleared off. Then we had to provide the forecast. We were providing forecast on a monthly basis, because all these things took a lot of hours to like do all the prep work. So I think that was like one of the things. We knew our cash position only once a month. And the third piece was, how do we forecast the cash accurately? So we had to look at all the transactions, all the tagging that happened in the prior year, and then forecast what's going to happen in the next month, right? So I think those were like some of the key challenges that we were dealing with. And then we were also dealing with cross-border cash movements. We operate in 2 countries, and we wanted to make sure that we only move the required cash from one country to another country, with primary operations based in the US.
Yeah. Well, Vic, I'm hearing, as you speak, I'm just reflecting, I'm hearing a lot of complexity. Not something easy to manage, definitely kind of mid-market to enterprise company, multinational, a lot of entities, and really kind of finding ways to build accuracy. I'd love to maybe talk about what life was prior to Nihilus and before AI. I know you alluded to some of the operational efficiencies earlier, but we'd really love to dive in, to some of these slow and error-prone reporting cycles. When you talk about some of these error-prone reporting cycles, maybe give us some insight to what that looked like for you and your team.
Yeah, so I think as a startup, your teams are very lean, and everyone is doing a lot of different things, right? So I think for us, we wanted to make sure we wanted to move with speed. And I think the cost of moving with speed was, there were some errors in the cash tagging, right? So I think when we were trying to reconcile cash receipts, we were trying to do a three-way reconciliation between the billing system, the CRM, and the payment processor. And I think there was always some gaps where we spent if not hours, sometimes weeks, just trying to figure out the cash movement from which customer the cash is coming from to apply to the right customer. And that impacted the cash reconciliation process, and that impacted the month-end close. So I think that was just a spiral effect. And I think we always tried to close the books, and there was always some open items left that would be done in the next month, right? So I think that was one of the biggest pain points. I think the other one was because this took so much time, reconciling all the accounts that we had. Our reporting and the close reporting took longer, right? I think in a typical, if I had to benchmark, the cash is generally done on day one, right? That's like the expectations. But for us, it took a couple of weeks to just reconcile cash, given that we were tracing all the movements of cash in different bank accounts. I think that led to, at some point, it always felt that my team is always closing, right? They're always in this month-end close, and we were trying to get them out of the cycle and have more time to focus on more strategic work, right? And more where they can provide more insights. And that's when I think when we implemented the ERP, we realized that the ERP did not solve for that. And we started looking at applications outside of the ERP, right? So that's where, we went through, we evaluated a few different companies. We came across Nihilus. Nihilus was building what we were trying to do. And I think that's when we started having a conversation with Nihilus. And, we did a pilot for 3 months, and then it was very successful. And then we started moving towards like the full implementation.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I hear that from a lot of folks that are leading finance, VP of finances, controllers, CFOs, where there's a big focus to get reconciliation tight, because if reconciliation isn't done, to your point, the accounting close is not shortened, it really hampers our ability to understand the results, having time to be put in that motion to analyze what's taking place, and then also to reforecast the next quarter or the next month. There's just not enough time to do that efficiently. I'd love to maybe segue to talk about visibility. What kind of gaps did you guys experience within this environment? Was there anything around data? Anything around inconsistency that things that you guys were experiencing?
Yeah, because I think our data was sitting in 3 different systems. We had the CRM, we had the payment processor, and the billing system. The billing system was in the ERP. We were pretty much downloading data from all the 3 different systems and trying to reconcile those transactions in Excel. So I think a lot of time was spent doing that, and there was definitely some inconsistency. Sometimes the transaction ID was missing, sometimes the opportunity was not correct. So I think we ran into those issues pretty frequently, and that's where we spent like a lot of time. Like my team was spending a lot of time trying to reconcile it, up to even like 70% reconciliation was a win for us. And I think we're spending a lot of time doing that. And then like getting to the reconciliations once the 3-way reconciliation of the transaction is done.
Yeah. And reconciliation is huge. I would imagine there's also some third-party risks there, not just internally, but would love to maybe understand reporting with external stakeholders to finance. What was the impact there? Would love to maybe understand with your auditors. I can imagine cash confirms and reconciliation with your audit firms. Would love to maybe have insight to the impact on those entities.
Yeah, I think I'll talk about like first like reporting to investors. Like we did a monthly, quarterly reporting to our investors. And I think when we started doing the audit, we realized some of the reporting was not like 100% there. And we were always updating our numbers after the audit, because during the audit is when we spent almost like 2 to 3 months just doing pre-audit work, trying to clean up our books, trying to make sure the numbers are more accurate. So I think we spent a lot of time doing that, and that led to going back and like updating the investors as well. Hey, this number is what we reported, and this is what the final number looks like. So I think it led to I would say some reconciliations between what was reported earlier versus what's the final number, and that just created additional work for the team. I think the focus shifted from are the numbers accurate when we are reporting it monthly and quarterly to is it like what would be the big difference between the final number and the reported numbers, right? So there was definitely some inaccuracy in the numbers that were getting reported, but I think that was like in the initial phases. And then as we realized, and as a private company, as we started going through audit, that process also started tightening up. And that's when we really realized we need a system to like solve this, right? Like it cannot be done manually, especially as we are growing as a company. Like we want to make sure we can do this in a more automated fashion.
Definitely. And for a lot of people in the audience today, this is kind of their day-to-day life. This is where they're stuck. And I know there's a lot of apprehension around AI adoption. There's a lot of apprehension around ideating what my workflow could look like if it wasn't this way. But you guys took a risk in that. And I'd love to maybe segue to the next slide to talk about what life looked like after implementation and after AI.
Sure.
There are a couple of things, listed here, but we'd love to maybe understand, the adoption. What were the adoption drivers for you internally?
Right. I think when we started looking at what's available in the market and who can partner with us given our unique needs, we started working with Nihilus. I think we kind of scaled down to what's the biggest task that is taking the most amount of time, and we realized reconciliations was one of the biggest pain point for us. And that's where we started working with Nihilus. I think what we really liked was everything was on one platform. We could connect all our bank accounts, our CRM, our payment processor data into one bank account. And it was getting pretty much like real-time download of the data from all the different systems. And we started seeing the auto reconciliation, right? I think when we first started implementing Nihilus, it was quick. It took us 3 weeks to stand up the entire system. And I'm talking about 2.5 years ago. We started, we put together the system pretty quickly. and then we started piloting it, right? And I think during the pilot phase, we were able to achieve like 70% on a daily time basis, right? And then we started making some tweaks, and I think that's where we got to a 90+ accuracy today. I think our data has gotten like much better, it's much cleaner as well. I think once that use case was resolved, we started looking at, can we provide more real-time visibility into a cash position, right? So we went from monthly to like semi-monthly to now we are doing it weekly. So every Monday, pretty much we can provide it in real time, but every Monday we provide a cash report to our management team. Hey, this is where our cash position is. This is which were all the big transactions ins and out, the free cash flow numbers. So I think that really helps the management team to see the cash position and where we are heading for the month, right? And we can make some changes in our cash forecasting based on the cash position for the week. And I think the way we were able to achieve that real-time cash position was using the tagging feature in Nihilus, right? So we started tagging all the transactions within Nihilus. We created, and now, especially now, we are using the AI tagging feature where we are tagging all the ins and outs, and we are able to differentiate between a vendor payment and what those vendor payments will be. So I think that was like the big turning point for us, and that's where we really started seeing that scale. We started seeing we have like more control now, and I think the most one of the biggest benefit was like, it reduced our close cycle. Like, we were closing like, 20 days. Now we close within the 6 business days. And, the team feels pretty comfortable. And in the last year and a half, we have had like no changes in the numbers reported to the investors, like on a monthly basis, quarterly basis.
Great.
Yeah, audited numbers are. So I think it just gives more confidence in the numbers that we are reporting, right? So
yeah, that's huge. I know investor confidence is everything. Once you lose that, the whole process bottoms out. I think this is a nice segue to talk about some of the results and the impacts. You mentioned a few of these around efficiency gains. You also talked about some of the strategic value around the increased confidence with investors. I'd love to maybe hone in on this slide to talk about the employee experience. Obviously, you run a large team made up of across many different teams, not just Treasury, but FP&A, tax. Would love to maybe understand what was the impact of the team from like implementation to utilization of the AI.
I think once the implementation was completed, and once the accounting team got comfortable with the tool, we started opening that tool up to like the FP&A team, like a strategic finance team. They are in this tool daily now. They are looking at the cash position. They are looking at the actual results and comparing it to their forecast. They have started playing with the forecast feature in Nihilus as well. So I think like there is a greater adoption. I think everyone is looking to use AI. Everyone is looking to automate their tasks and create more time for themselves. So I think it has definitely helped the strategic finance team. And similarly, Nihilus is also now fully integrated into our order to cash workflow. So I think like in the end, the system talks, like all the 3 systems are talking, like our ERP is talking to Nihilus, the bank accounts are talking to Nihilus, and as well as a CRM and payment processor. So I think it has impacted, like overall brought some efficiency for a lot of the teams that are using Nihilus, right? So, and I think we are not stopping here. We are trying to do more with Nihilus. Like, we are trying to challenge your team, challenge our team. Hey, can we make it more, can we use the tool more, right? And can we get like more ROI from the tool? So I think that's definitely a focus now.
Yeah, and frankly, I love this slide because it shows that automation and AI is more than just a replacement of manual work. It's actually driving business value, insight. Like trusted investors is something that's really hard to quantify. And it's also something hard to bridge to. How do we get this? And so I love how you guys have kind of found multi-threaded points in order to kind of utilize your TMS automation workflow to achieve a lot of these things. I think the results speak for themselves. And I think this is awesome. Let's talk about some of the lessons learned and what's next for you guys. Would love to maybe understand, to help the audience. There's a lot of people thinking about adopting AI. They don't know where to start. Would love to maybe hear from you, Vic, on some of the things that you've learned as you've gone through the process.
Sure. I think the first step for anyone who's starting this journey is to identify all the different tasks that is happening in the Treasury team, and then pretty much list like the top 3 tasks where the team is spending the most amount of time doing manual work, right? I think once that is identified, you can take, okay, then there's a focus, like these are the 3 things we want to like focus on and try to automate using AI, using a tool. And then I think the second step is looking at the underlying data. I think the tool will only be as insightful and as accurate as the underlying data is, and then kind of invest time, like work with the partner to see how we can clean up the underlying data, or how do the underlying data like talk to each other. Sometimes the way you can get lot of benefits out of using a tool like Nihilus or any AI generated tool is if we keep the underlying data clean and simple and like easy to like ingest into the tools, right? So I think that's what we focused on. We are an AI company as well. We do that throughout our different processes in the legal journey as well, where we focus on the underlying data and making sure that the foundational data can be used to either in the models or also for automation, right? I think the last piece is like doing like POCs, like identifying like the small group of teams or small group team members like that can use the tool first and really be like that spokesperson or be like a champion of the tool within the company, right? I think that definitely helps. Like we started using the tool first within accounting. We got a lot of benefits in accounting, and then we started rolling out strategic finance and like with a broader order to cash team. So I think that's like one way like we saw was very, very beneficial, right? And it's also very easy to get a buy-in, right? Because when you come to the management, especially with cash, right? It's like the most important metric for everyone in the company, especially the management and the investors. We want to make sure like, we can, getting the buy-in was like very easy, like, especially with all the productivity gains, the efficiency gains, and providing more like real-time visibility, right? So getting the buy-in was not like very challenging for us on the tool.
Awesome. Vic. I'm so happy to hear all the positive results. I think that's attributable to your leadership and forward thinking to kind of move finance forward. And really just want to appreciate you for sharing your insights. I think hearing it from your lens really helps, I think, the practitioner community, especially VPs of finance, learn how to embed this new technology within their work stack. And I think the results are evident. And so thank you again for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vic. And segueing from that, there's a guide that we've put together to really help practitioners adopt and evaluate AI from a treasury perspective. It's an unbiased guide, and essentially this guide is intended to help you in the buying process. Let's be honest, there's a lot of companies out there that say they have AI and it's not. And so you need to be able to very quickly, early on in the process, be able to evaluate what is true and what is not true. And so feel free to scan the QR code to download it and to be able to use it. It'll be super helpful as you guys go through your buying and decision criteria throughout your buying journey. Secondly, if you want to see more live AI Treasury in action, or you want to see a demo, I've added our contact details here. You can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, very accessible. Vic as well is accessible on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to answer any questions as we go on in the future. But at this point, I'd like to pass it back to Paul to get into the next segment of the webinar.
Matthew, Vic, thank you so much. Great presentation. We do have a couple questions. I just want to let people know both Matthew and Vic will follow up on those questions as we move on to the next session. Thanks again, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Vic.
Thank you. Bye-bye.